Good evening, everybody. My name is Andrzej Kamensky, and together with Alison Bennett, we are organizers of this meetup. First of all, welcome in this surreal world of COVID-19, that forces us to do certain things first time. I got first time haircut from my wife, but also as this meetup, we do this this meetup first time online. So we are learning, obviously, but we don't give up. So our last meetup was in March. We decided that we actually continue doing this online, and so we have this meetup right now in April. First of all, some housekeeping. So we will have 3 presentations. Each presentation is about 20 minutes long. After each presentation, we've got about 10 minutes for questions. And then also on the right-hand side, you should see question and answers area. So here's the opportunity for you to ask the questions, type your questions there, and we'll ask the presenters to answer those questions during those 10 minutes after each presentation. So what is DevOps, right? A lot of people think that DevOps is about processes and tools. And actually, that's partly true. DevOps is about automation and about the lean processes. But mainly, it is about mindset and creating a short feedback loops. This particular meetup, we created especially to learn and to have our own feedback loops. So currently, there is about between 60 and 80% of organizations that either implemented already or trying to implement DevOps. Today, we've got 3 speakers that will be talking about the topics that are relevant to creation and building great organizations, DevOps organizations. So we will start with the first topic. And as you know, to build great products, we need to have great teams. Our first speaker, Jay Kulkarni, who is the release lead at WorkSafeBC, will be talking about building world-class DevOps teams. So I would like to welcome Jay. And
thank you, Andre.
Okay. All right. So Jay, if you could share your presentation.
Yeah, I would just need a confirmation from you if you can see my screen.
Not yet. Here we go. I can see it now.
Okay, let me put it in full screen. Do you guys see it?
Yes, and here we go.
Okay, let me turn on my timer because I need to time myself. Okay, so welcome everybody. Good evening. This is surreal, as Andre said, and today I'm going to present a kind of a mixed topic, which is going to be a story about how one team has dominated the world for 20 years. I'll get to that. Myself, Jay Kulkarni, working as a release lead for WorkSafeBC. So let's get started, right? So when we talk about team, number one question is, what is leadership, right? This is the fundamental question that we always ask ourselves. So there are 2 types, according to me. Few of them are born leaders, right? You just cannot deny them that it is their destiny to move things forward. And they are always there, no matter where you see them. They are all over the world and they have their toys to play with, and you can't deny that. Second type of leaders. These people are all about process and tools. They are happy to give you one solution or the other solution, but they always have an answer for you. They will never let you do something that you want to do. And that's where I'm slowly heading towards. There are other types of leaders. Now, the leaders who actually keep talking about toys. Like, according to me, these are toys. Like, I can't help, worked across different organizations, right? From a startup to a crown corporation. This is a conversation that you will always see. And going back to Andre's point over there, DevOps is not just about tool. It is about the mindset. It is something that you do every day and you keep repeating because you want to improve every single day. If you look at DevOps, and if you look at this, all you got to focus on is what you're building, how you're integrating, deploying, and again taking the feedback, and again starting from the get-go. So there are these 4 quadrants, right? So let's not get stuck into the world of toys, and let's move forward. But in reality, what happens? Come on, we all know what is reality, right? Even if you're doing that, we all get SEV ones, and which we all are scared of because they come at 2 a.m. at night. You know how it is. And then you need all the approvals still to get through all the way to production because nobody trusts you, right? Because you're still playing with toys like kids. And the best part is this, even though we have automation, you know what? We are not mature enough to say we can handle automation, so we simply disable the test and let it go. Last but not the least, come on, this is my favorite thing. It's been 20 years since Agile has been there, and we are still talking about it as if it's a new thing. This should have been ingrained, and now somebody should have come together again as 10 people and define a new set of charters that should be for the next 20 years, but it's still not happening. We're still talking about Agile. So similarly, being myself, I played professional in Mumbai, so cricket is very dear to me. I see a kind of a resemblance between these two. That is, in cricket, you have the stadium, the place where you play, that you can treat as your environment. You have your fast bowlers who come in at a speed of light and they bowl fast. So these are your pipelines if you want to look at that way. You got your batsmen who actually score runs, so they put the things going. These are the people who actually are up there facing the fire from these fast bowlers, and there are people who are doing the operations. These are the field people who are always like trying to save runs, trying to save you from all the glitches. So similarly in cricket as well, there are these 4 quadrants that you need to focus. Similarly in dev, you have the dev, right? You build it, you test it, you deploy it, and again you support it. A similar cycle. Keeping this motion, I would like to continue on this one and talk about a story which is very dear to my heart, to be honest. It's a story about how the West Indies team like dominated 20 years in world cricket, and they built this team ground up. Obviously, they had the best fast bowlers, so they broke some jaws, but they won hearts all over the world. And while they were doing it, they actually built a culture around it. And the key thing is, when you are working on something, you just don't work for the sake of it. You become so influential that you become a game changer. That is a key message over here. And you know what? Whenever these things happen, you actually need special people to do it. I mean to say special people as in as special as they're ordinary, but they turn out to be special. And we'll get to that. And you know what? As many countries were going through like a independence moment, 1960s and 70s was a very tough time in the West Indies. And I will walk about that as well. But these are the times when actually people just got out their freedom. So they were still trying to figure out, and the new generation was coming in. The stage was getting set. Let's be honest. Like the stage was set for somebody to come and take charge. Down came this guy called Clive Lloyd. He was not a legend yet. A young guy who actually had a chip on his shoulder, and he said, okay, you know what? I think I got this. I'm in control. But there was something about him. He was different, right? The best part about this, what I like about him is he actually was the only member in his family who was earning. Nobody else was doing. So while he was getting up and playing cricket to become a cricketer, he was actually doing odd jobs to support it. So when you have somebody like this who is in the charge, who has actually been through struggle himself, he is the kind of a leader you need. Somebody who's calm, who's able to think right, who's able to actually drive things properly. And he was ready to face challenges. And keep in mind, with the freedom comes a generation that actually is willing to say, no, we are not going to give up, we're going to fight. So the stage was set. They went as a team, as you can see, they went down under. And down under mostly means they go to like Australia, 1975. And till that point, because many of you would have heard like how West Indies people talk and everything, they were only treated as entertainers. And in the crowd as well, to everywhere, this is a different time, guys. This is not a time when you cannot call people out for whatever reasons. This was a rude time. People would say mean things to you. So they went down there and they were totally destroyed, like completely destroyed. Like you can see over there, the batsman not able to take the heat. And to make things worse, the media actually organized a fun tour and they were paraded across of how bad it was. Let's look at this. What is the secret of their delivery? Their secret of delivery was these 2 fast bowlers. So Jeff Thompson was the one from Australia who could throw at 99. 1.8, and Dennis Lilly, who could, this is his average. Dennis could easily throw 100 miles an hour. And if you want to know how many players are there in each team, there are 11 players in each team. And if you count in this picture over here, you will see all of them are standing right there. That is a hallmark of confidence that these fast bowlers had. They had quality people who could deliver fast and precision, and people feared them. And that's it. That was the Aussie secret. They were good at it. They were world number ones. You cannot take it away from them, right? Completely destroyed. West Indies came back to their home turf, and actually Clive Lloyd took a lot of heat, as usual, as leaders have to take the heat, by saying, okay, this is not a good thing. What you did is completely devastating. Now he's like, okay, no, he's like, I got this. What I'm going to do actually is I'm going to build a machinery right now. Very similar to how we talk about in DevOps. He's like, this is how I'm going to do it. So he actually went to the various West Indies islands, Trinidad, Tobago, and then he got all these young chaps under his belt. And he said, okay, you know what? I trust you guys. And there was a lot of bickering within the team about, oh, the batsmen are not doing well. Oh, the dev is not doing well. The QA never tests the code. The support people don't understand. He ended the bickering. He's like, guys, we can do this. If they can play this game, we got a new game. And let's unleash it. You know what? He found, well, like these fast bowlers, and I'm going to quote them as over here. So the first one was Michael Holding. Now this guy was called as Whispering Death because he ran, and as an umpire, you can see over there the person who's like bending down. He had to keep turning back. Like, is he here? Is he here? Because this guy was so smooth, right? And then he would deliver with a rhythmic pace, and then simply knock you out at that position. Like, he was so precise. His philosophy was just like, take it or get out. Andy Roberts, the next guy that he hired, he's technically called the hitman, because he has almost hit all the batsmen in the world somewhere in their ribs or on the pads or odd places that I cannot say at this moment. He hardly smiled. And if you see his speed, this is lightning fast, guys. If you imagine a cork ball coming towards your way at 100 kilometers an hour, you better watch out for that. One of the best actions, his attitude was, I never complain. Like, he had two special fastballs which would just knock people out. People could not play him. Joel Garner, the famous guy, he's called as the Big Bird. He's 6'8", right? 95 miles an hour. Okay, being a giant, he was gentle, but he was smiling. But this guy was a tough guy. He actually was the one who could read any game properly and would make changes as required, though. Crazy people. Last but not the least, he is called as Colin Crawford. Like, the menace to society was his nickname, though. Smiling Assassin, another one. This guy is the go-to guy for the captain. So he basically got all of these people like together, and he would keep them happy. And he had such a weird action that nobody could understand him. So why I'm talking about these four people, right? Because these four people actually unleashed the fire in the 1976 England tour, where if you can see the name over here, it's called Tony Greig. Tony Greig was the captain of England back then, and he made a really bad comment. He said, I'll make them grovel, because as they always do, what can they do, right? And then this was enough. And Clive Lloyd said, guys, do you need any other motivation? So whatever we have learned and got quick feedback loops on, let's unleash it. The heat was turned on. These four bowlers, with all the energy they had, kept on bowling, and it was just breathing fire. And then you can see over here, and when Tony Greig came to it, that's it. The 11 people were waiting to take on him, and the stumps goes off, as you can see in the second picture over here. And at the end, the English media, for being funny as usual, it says, okay, I'm growling, and the Joker Greg cheered on as his back on his knees. So this is, again, just the first time when they could get a quick feedback loop by saying, okay, this formula that we are trying out with four fast bowlers, it's actually working. All of a sudden, when these people started to win, now this is where the game-changing aspect comes into picture. Now people don't like it, because now you're winning. And when you're winning, they would like to somehow stifle you. They would like to put some like barriers in you. By saying, oh no, you can't do that. Oh no, you can't bowl. No, that's too fast, right? And as usual, there are these famous statisticians, as even with the COVID-19, as you guys can see, who can keep talking about, oh, like this is going to happen. 4 people are going to die. 40 are going to get injured. Media stories started to come, how they are just aiming towards a coconut shell. We need a body armor. They cannot run this fast. Instead of giving them a credit, Jealousy was all the way up to the top. And then came a time when, after this particular tour, there's an Australian billionaire called Kerry Packer. Now he just realized that the West Indies team is actually the lowest paid, and it's like, as a businessman, he's like, this is good. I will organize something called as a World Series, and I'll set a good trophy so these people can come and show off their skills over there. Their CI/CD pipeline. This is fast delivery. So what happened is they actually organized it, and they all went there. And West Indies lost the first 2 matches. This actually being a businessman and being a professional 101, he just comes charging right in and he says, okay, this is enough. Guys, there is a reason why I actually have you like in this particular thing, because I want you to perform. I'm going to get you somebody called as Dwayne White, who's going to be a coach, who's going to make you fit. I want something good in there. And if you're not, pack your bags and leave. That's it. So this particular speech is actually like the Australian media hates it, because this was the trigger, as you can call it in your build pipeline, required for them to maybe move to a YAML pipeline or something else, which changed the game forever. These people in that time, when cricketers are known to having a big belly and flapping everything around when they're running, these people were fit. They would run from their hotel to the stadium and back. They were that fit. And they were actually given that time the first colored series where people are wearing color. Once, this is back in the time, guys. Everything used to be white, as I'm wearing today. And they were the pink fast bowlers. And then this changed the game forever, because now these people were fit. And this was a show of a showmanship. They were delivering fast. They were fielding well. Everything was falling the way they wanted to do it. Again, now this is where the action is. Now they're going back in 1979 to the same team that they faced in 1975. Now that you got your tight feedback loops, you actually figured out what you're doing. You are actually going against the best in the world. So now the fire is going to meet fire. And both the sides have the best bowlers, so you cannot complain, right? But at the same time, when they had Hennis Lilly and Hogg, who are still bowling at the speed of lightning, all of a sudden, the tables have turned. The Aussies were actually complaining. I know there are a few Aussies in this crowd over here right now, but the Aussies were actually complaining they could not take the heat. And they completely defeated them in a 2-0 series. One of the key things you will say always that, oh, you know what? You're always talking about fast bowlers. Okay, I'm fast bowler, but at the same time, I'm focusing on from perspective, because fast bowling is one aspect of the game. If you treat it like your dev or maybe your QA, but there's another aspect of the game, which is scoring runs. You had somebody called Vivian Richards. In that time, if you imagine now that there is a helmets and all these gears are there, Vivian Richards never wore a helmet, never facing this. A few times he has got hit. He would always come and look at you and say, ball me 6 bounces. I don't mind. He actually dictated the game, not that the fast bowlers dictated the game. He was called the master blaster. He used to hit it so hard that people actually would move their hands away by saying, no, I'm not catching this ball. And there's one incident which I would like to highlight over here was the fact is like, when he got out once, like before wicket, and he was walking out. This is back in the West Indies when the series was there, and he was not happy, and he was just hitting his back like on his pad as if like he knew that he was not out. And then all of a sudden the crowd goes crazy and they started throwing bottles, and the game had to be stopped. The umpires had to go in while Viv has already changed his clothes and he's in the shower and he's like having a bath. And there's like, oh, you come out. He's like, what do you mean? I'm in the shower right now. It's like, no, the crowd is going crazy. Please come out. He's like, okay. So Vivian Richards, in all the way, like having soap on his body with just towel on, he came in front of the crowd and all he did was this. And the entire crowd stopped, 40,000 people. This shows that when you are excelling in your game, people look up to you. So whatever department it is, you need to be excelling in that. And Vivian Richards was one of the best batsmen I've ever known. So you just don't have bowlers. Oh yeah, we have just one thing, but we can't really figure out the other. No, you actually have good players everywhere. Last, but this is the most important part, because as this thing was happening, the culture in the West Indies was emerging. As I don't know how many of you have heard Bob Marley's song, but they are always inspiring. And this is the exact same era when it happened. Get up, stand up for your rights. There was a meeting in which actually Vivian Richards met with Desmond Tutu, who actually said that Nelson Mandela, as people were going through the struggle against the apartheid government, was inspired by the struggle of and the progress and the glory that the West Indies team is able to achieve. And it's giving them hope that they will also get freedom. Zimbabwe, like Mozambique, all these countries were getting inspired by what the West Indies was doing at this moment. Bob Marley would actually come to the dressing room and the typical West Indian way of saying, Yaman, Yaman, and just give high five. And each of them, it's a pleasure because everybody was treating each other as you are my hero. It's not like I take the credit and I'm sitting right here by saying, oh, this is what it is. No, everybody was actually appreciating each other for what they have done. And Bob Marley taking it to stage, if you're a music fan, you will love him. And that became the battlefield music for these people. And you make everyone part of the success. And here is how the domination continued. They continued to win the 1975 World Cup. They won the 1979 World Cup. They are the best team on turf to beat all the other teams on their home. So it's just complete domination. It's a juggernaut. It's on your way. 1984 England tour was very interesting because England that time had like great batsmen, like seriously great batsmen, like and great bowlers like Ian Botham and all these were greats that time. They could compete. And for West Indies, this was like the test in which can you deploy or can you do it within, say, like a split of a second? It's like those, but they came out shining and they defeated England 5-0. Complete. It's the 1975 guys to 1984. Complete dominance. Nobody's stopping them. But you know what? As the time goes on, a great leader always helps and makes way for the other leader. If you can see right next to Joel Garner, the tall guy, there's a tiny guy. That's what I'm going to get to right now. You just don't focus on yourself. You actually build your next generation. When you hand over stuff to them, you do it with pride. Down comes this young guy, Malcolm Marshall. I'm going to share one story. During this tour, what happened is Malcolm Marshall actually fractured his left hand. I don't have the picture because I could not find it. He was bowling lightning speed with one arm fracture. He came to bat with single, like in a hand, and he's just batting, and the entire crowd is laughing, and he's not even getting out. The other person got out. It shows the attitude of being tough and able to just dominate. Curtly Ambrose came in, Courtney Walsh came in, Brian Lara is another greats. He just came and destroyed everybody else as well. How did this? Because the environment was there for these guys to flourish. And keep in mind, guys, at this time when this was happening, Clive Lloyd, as a captain, was not breathing down anyone's neck to say, oh, you got to do, let me show you how to bowl fast. Oh, let me show you what's the best process here. That was not happening. So how do you build a world-class team? Come on, let's get back to the basics, right? You find the right people and you actually allow them to grow organically. As I said again, I'll repeat it because you don't want people to just breathing down your neck every single time to every task. You actually allow them. And Clive Lloyd actually allowed these 4 fast bowlers to try out variations and learn from it. All he did is he was reading the game. He was helping them out, whatever problems they had. Vivian Richards was under him. He took over the captaincy. The next thing, it's never about the processes and the tool. You act as a whole unit. That's the key thing over here. If you don't act as a whole unit, why are you as a team? Because even if you see 11, and currently all the sizes of the dev teams is 10, right? Maximum. It's the same as your own cricket team. And as I said, you need to be fit in all aspects of the game. You need to be ready to face all the challenges. Oh, my dev is good, but my QA is not good. Oh, my release is not good. My support is not good. No. This team actually was brilliant in fielding, batting, bowling, understanding the situation. No matter what turf they played on, they played it the way they wanted to play it. That's the beauty. And in the end, I know I've only got 5 seconds over here. I'm going to take 10 more seconds. I'm going to say the fact is like they actually set standards. They actually are the ones who set standards and they broke records. Nobody at that time, keep in mind, guys, Google is not available, right? There is no best practices. It's all about you. We are still humans. And as COVID-19 makes it very clear, we work together. That is the only way you do it. You just don't go Google and, oh, these are the best practices and, okay, we are following best practices. We are doing good. No, set your own standards. break something, do something. Last but not the least, so there's one particular lyrics from Bob Marley which I truly like. It says, "Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. Have no fear for atomic energy, because none of them can stop the time. And always get up, stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. No matter it's COVID, no matter it's what, we're going to come out of it. And as a team, as a leader, you need everyone to organically grow, because when everyone grows, all the leaves grow, the entire tree will grow." Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jay. It was really great. Really appreciate a very interesting combination of DevOps and cricket. But again, that shows that the mindset is actually the most important. So it's applicable everywhere. So at this point, we don't see any specific questions for Jay. So if you got questions, please go ahead and type. This chat is moderated, so we'll publish those questions as soon as possible and ask Jay. I think we're going to move to the second presentation, and we'll combine the question and answers at the end. So our second speaker is Willy Schaub, who is a cloud system engineer at WorkSafeBC. And Willy is going to talk about the very important aspect of DevOps. It is empowering teams using common engineering systems. So Willy, welcome. Willy, I think, here we go. Right. I think, Willy, you're on mute at this point.
Right, now you should hear me.
Yes, absolutely, perfect.
Can you just confirm you can see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Perfect.
And there we go, here is the presentation.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks, Andre, for giving me the opportunity to pick up from where Melissa O'Brien left off at the last meetup, chat about our common engineering system at WorkSafeBC, or the machinery, as Jay would call it. Quickly about me, I was born in Basel, Switzerland, grew up in sunny Johannesburg, South Africa, which also appeared in Jay's session just now. And I moved to Vancouver in 2009 to work with the Microsoft Team Foundation server team. In 2018, I had the privilege to join WorkSafeBC with the cloud operations team, with a focus to look at Azure DevOps and streamlining our engineering processes. So when I'm not connected to the digital world, I love to explore the ocean, and recently moved very close to it. I'm fascinated by aviation, and if you look at my tweet feeds, you'll know that I just love watching sunsets and sunrises. They're just too gorgeous. So that's me. So now let's explore our common engineering system. So anyone going through a digital transformation will acknowledge that we need to focus on products, process, but most importantly, people. And that really came out in Jay's presentation. It's all about the people. So our mandate for the common engineering system is to empower the people and standardize on best products and continuously improve processes to raise the quality and security bars, the efficiency and reliability, and make people like Jay, our release manager, happy. But how do we change things and drive a culture change? One way is we can enforce strict governance, standards, rules, also known as a big stick, but they quickly stifle innovation and personal satisfaction. Alternatively, we can promote complete autonomy, which leads to a product and process rebellion and creates a pile of technical debt that is very hard and expensive to maintain. It's really one of our current challenges, is to get rid of our technical debt. Or we can listen to what motivates and enables our agile teams and work together to embrace organizational governance. He opted for the latter, and the reason for that is to enable and inspire engineering teams to learn, grow, innovate by sharing and encouraging proven patterns and practices through guardrails. And we refer to it as guardrails. It's a softer version of governance. So when we set out on our journey for the common engineering system, we sat down and we set up 5 core goals to drive the system. One is to continuously innovate and enable our users with alignment to the architecture, security, and the development guardrails. Automation to provide speed, consistency, and repeatable processes. To enable and empower users to create business value from having an idea to production until it's eventually deprecated. Most importantly, if Kevin's actually listening to this meetup, is to align with the security guardrails to minimize vulnerabilities and enforce or encourage a secure collaboration and an engineering system. Most importantly, and this has always been my mantra, is to keep it simple and create a system that can be supported, maintained, and improved with ease. You can have the best tools on this planet. If your system is not maintainable, you're going to be in for a hard cricket match, probably facing the West Indies bowlers. So to kind of give away a few of the technology that we're using at WorkSafeBC, our common engineering system is based on Azure DevOps, formerly known as BSTS, and it provides an integrated and collaborative environment, allowing both business and engineering to take an idea, to plan, to develop, to test, release, and monitor the solution. So the entire solution lifecycle. So to get away from the word governance, we use guardrails. And our guardrails are transparently defined as guidelines on the left-hand side, such as branch policies, naming conventions, and pull request workflow, and design practices, as on the right, that create blueprints or templates for branching strategies, automatic release note generation, and continuous integration and delivery pipelines. So for example, to drive quality, we promote the use of pull requests, branch policies, test-driven development, mutant testing using a tool called Striker, and a platter of DevSecOps scanning tools. And on the right-hand side, you can see an example of how we set up our branch policies, in this case, for the master branch. Here's an example of, I just took 2 snippets out of our wiki briefly before the meetup. On the left-hand side, you'll see an example of one of our guidelines showing the pull request flow, and I've put kind of red dotted lines around the most important parts of these wikis. So we also produce very short demo videos. It's far easier to watch a 5-minute video than to actually digest pages and pages of documentation. And on the right-hand side is an extract of one of our design practices, in this case for multi-stage YAML pipelines. And one of the important questions we try and answer in every design practice is, what's in it for me? This is a typical question we get from the engineers. What is in it for me if I actually pick up this design practice? This is closest to our heart, and it's another example of the guardrails, and in this case, it's unified pipelines. We generate our kind of solutions with one release build, configured to generate debug information, which is then deployed to the symbol server. So we only build once. DevSecOps guardrails are then automatically injected into the CI pipeline at queue time, allowing teams to focus on their build part of the pipeline and delivering value. The other advantage is if our security team wants to make a tweak, they simply tweak the templates, which are then automatically injected into any future build. So again, developers no longer have to focus on or worry about how do I run all these products. The developers themselves, they own the CI pipeline and certain parts of the release pipeline. And operations, which is the team I'm with, cloud operations, we own the delivery pipeline, whereby we use group-based security models to enforce permissions. Also, we use a neat feature in Azure DevOps, which is the artifact filters, and that allows us to include or exclude certain branches of code triggering a deployment. So, for example, only the release branches will be able to make their way to our staging and production environments. So no longer the oops, accidentally implemented a development branch in production. And we use approval gates and manual approvals to give us additional control to start, resume, and reject deployments. So for example, security will peek into all the logs that were created by the building code. They will look at the SonarQube scan, so they will make sure everything was sound before they click the button and release it to production. And again, here's a quick snippet out of one of our new build pipelines using YAML. As you can see, most of the pipeline is actually green text, which is documentation. So we like to document all our new pipelines to the nth degree. Just makes it simpler to maintain and also to troubleshoot when, like Jay mentioned, at 2 o'clock in the morning, your phone rings. It just makes it so much easier to deal with the 2 a.m. call. And I'm not sure if you can actually see it on your side, but one part of the YAML definition actually defines another repository where we pull templates from. And then there's two parts which we inject into all our pipelines going forward. One is called the Bootstrap init. It pulls in the templates that runs all the DevSecOps scans. There's a second one, which we call the Bootstrap run. It calls in even more DevSecOps scans and our building code. So this is a template. If we quickly look at the log after it ran, you will see that Bootstrap init injects verbose logging and also runs a SonarQube prepare task, unbeknown to whoever actually set up the build pipeline. And in future, we will also start injecting telemetry at this point. And when we actually run the second Bootstrap, which we call run, more logging. Again, logging is so important when you're sitting at 2 a.m. in the morning and you're trying to figure out what's going on. It runs things like SonarQube analyze, white source vulnerability scanning, and runs all our building code validations. And in future, telemetry. So what is next? What are we looking at tomorrow, the day after, and continuously improving? As Jay would say, improve your cricket team. So we're fine-tuning, we're sharpening our swords. Currently, we're focused on consolidating and moving hundreds of diverse classic delivery pipelines to multiple stage YAML-based pipelines. So when I say consolidate, for example, when we last did a check to deploy less than 20 applications, we have 261 build definitions. And I'll let you do the math in your own mind as to the complexity and cost that actually brings to the environment. We're also looking for ways to separate deployment from release, and that's to empower the business to decide if and when features should be released to users. We are busy embracing telemetry, and that's really to help us understand if what we're doing is effective. Are the changes we're making, are the guardrails we're defining, are they actually effective? Are they making a good positive impact? And our vision, long term, hopefully medium term, is to eventually enable users to create new processes, i.e. CI/CD pipelines through a self-service portal by simply clicking a button and everything appears by magic. So I try to kind of think back and reflect over the past 36 weeks and to see what we actually learned. And some of the salient points I made is we need to understand our people, and again, it's the people, as well as the processes through continuous feedback, coaching, mentoring, and doing things like Ember walks, i.e. living with the users and experiencing their pain and finding ways to improve things. Because transformation are most effective when we drive changes from within. And again, Jay, in your presentation, I saw that coming out as well. As change comes from within, you cannot sprinkle magic over a cricket team and their masters. It has to come from the team. So we have to balance organizational governance with autonomy through people-friendly manifestos and guardrails to create collaboration or a collaborative and sustainable common engineering system, and culture. Culture is important. And most importantly, we have to answer the question, what is in it for me, which I hear regularly from our engineers, with to make WorkSafeBC a better place. We're not doing this to make things more difficult, to introduce guardrails. We're doing this to make our environment a better place. Chat we had recently, again, important, automate only what is automatable and valuable, and embrace telemetry as early and often as possible. Because the lack of comprehensive visual metrics and success indicators is what keeps me awake at night, and is definitely our Achilles heel. And I can see Jay is smiling because he probably has exactly the same problems, that we need to see visually, are we making a positive impact? And the only way is if we actually have telemetry, which we can analyze. So that was a quick round of our common engineering system. And Andre, are there any questions?
Yeah, so actually we have a couple of questions, but I think we are going to leave them to the end because some of these questions might be all of our presenters might answer. So so maybe I would suggest that we move to a third presentation, and this presentation is really related to one of the important aspects of DevOps, which is actually creating those short feedback loops, and specifically about it is about monitoring and alerting. So Dmitry Shmulevich will be talking about the Prometheus. Welcome, Dmitry.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Would you like to share your presentation?
Am I?
Okay, it's coming up.
Okay.
And here we go. Yes.
Yeah, just 1 second. Sorry, stop the video so don't waste the bandwidth on the video. Okay, so yeah, I'm actually glad that we ended up on importance of telemetry and metrics, and this is exactly what I'm planning to talk. Hello, everybody. My name is Dmitry. I'm a software engineer at SysDig. Today, I will be talking about monitoring with Prometheus. Normally, I would ask you guys to show hands who has any experience with Prometheus. but I cannot do that today. So this talk will be mostly an introduction into Prometheus. A few words about myself. I have been enjoying software development for over 2 decades, and I'm a big fan of open source. At SysDic, I'm working on developing and integrating Prometheus into our secure DevOps platform. I'm also contributing to a number of open source projects in the Prometheus ecosystem. Prior to SysDic, I was with Microsoft. I worked on adopting Linux and containers and also contributed to open source. In my spare time, I enjoy music and outdoor, but didn't have much luck with the latter recently. So Prometheus. Prometheus is an open source monitoring and alerting system. It was created in 2012 by SoundCloud, made public in 2015, graduated CNCF in 2016 after Kubernetes. Prometheus quickly became very popular, and today it's de facto standard for monitoring Kubernetes. It is widely used in cloud-native deployments. In addition, a number of projects leverage Prometheus and enhance its features. Prometheus is a monitoring solution which is one of the 3 pillars of observability. The other 2 are logging and tracing. All 3 are important and play different roles. Logging is focused on individual events. Tracing is used to analyze end-to-end flow and performance across multiple components. Monitoring gives us a periodic snapshot of important system and application parameters and helps to identify issues at near runtime. Before diving into Prometheus, let's discuss terminology. A metric is any measurable characteristic of your workload or infrastructure that you want to track. For example, a number of requests, CPU consumption, duration, etc. Prometheus uses plain text metric format, and metric names are usually very descriptive. A metric may have 0 or more labels. Label is a key value pair that helps to differentiate the metrics. Combination of metric name and labels uniquely identify the metrics. A sample is a single measurement of a metric taken at a particular time. And finally, time series is a chronological set of samples collected from a metric. As a side note, metrics and time series are very close in their meanings and often used interchangeably. Labels play an essential role in Prometheus data model. Each label represents a dimension in a multidimensional metric space. Unlike some other monitoring systems, labels in Prometheus don't have hierarchy. That allows for better flexibility in defining and querying the metrics. Prometheus doesn't limit the number of labels, but how many metrics with the same name can we have? That's what we call metric cardinality. If every label adds a dimension, then the number of distinct values for that label will define size of that dimension. Hence, metric cardinality would be equal to the product of sizes across all dimensions. So in this example, we have 3 label names: method, route, and status code. The first has 3 values, the second 2 values, and the third 4 values. So metric cardinality would be 3 times 2 times 4, 24, meaning that we can have 24 different metrics with those labels. Metric cardinality is very important. A high number of labels may cause an explosion in number of metrics, which in turn could negatively affect storage, network, and query time. So there are 4 types of metrics in Prometheus. Counter represents a single monotonic value. Gauge represents single numerical value that can arbitrarily go up and down. Histogram samples observations. and count them in configurable buckets. It also provides sum and a count of all observed values. Summary is similar to a histogram. It calculates configurable quantiles over a sliding time window. It's easy to start using Prometheus. Prometheus scrapes the metrics over HTTP from other processes, which in Prometheus jargon are called targets. So if you develop your own application or service, then you would need to turn it into a Prometheus target by instrumenting Prometheus client inside your code. And the client is available in many languages. If you want to monitor an existing system, such as storage or infrastructure, then you may want to use Prometheus exporters, which acts as a bridge between the system and Prometheus. There are plenty of Prometheus exporters available for all kinds of systems. Let's review Prometheus architecture. Prometheus server uses service discovery to find the targets. Then it pulls the metrics from the targets and stores them locally in the time series database. Prometheus server exposes HTTP API for querying the data. It also periodically evaluates the alerts and pushes them to the alert manager. And the alert manager can be integrated with a third-party incident management system, such as PagerDuty and OpsGenie. Prometheus server is constantly collecting the metrics throughout its life cycle. At any time, we can query the content of the database with Prometheus Query Language, or PromQL. PromQL was designed from scratch for Prometheus and optimized for manipulation on time series data. PromQL operates with four data types: string, scalars, instant vector, and range vectors. String is for string constants, such as version number and other textual information. Scalar is for a floating point value. Instant vector is a set of time series sharing the same timestamp. And range vector is a set of time series sharing time range. So pretty straightforward definition. If you look at instant vector, it's just a snapshot of time series values at a certain point in time. It is actually a vector. For the range vector, we have such a snapshot, which gives us a matrix. So once we have scalars, vectors, and matrices, we can apply various mathematical rules and calculate all kinds of interesting statistics. Prometheus supports a wide range of functions and operators, but don't let the language scare you. PromQL is easy to start with, and in practice, most of the queries use only a small subset of the language. Now, let's explore PromQL. Let's see what information can we get from metrics with the name HTTP request total. First, we are querying all time series with this metric name. This metric is a counter. The number of requests can only go up. For this query, Prometheus returns all time series, and you can see how many of them. Remember metric cardinality? Also, the values here are absolute. It doesn't really help except to know how many requests have been processed. But what if we want to get normalized values so we can compare the metrics? Since this metric is a counter, we can apply rate function. This query returns average rate of request over last 2 minutes per time series. We still see all existing time series, but now the values are comparable. How to make this information more meaningful? Each time series has a status status code label, which tells whether the request was successful or not. Can we analyze the rate of request for each status code? Yes, let's try that. This query aggregates the rates by status code. Apparently, there are 3 distinct status codes, so the result is 3 times series, significantly less data. This is a bit better, right? But can we improve it? In this query, we divide the rate of all unsuccessful requests by the total rate and multiplying by 100 to get percentage. Now we have 1 time series that shows the error ratio. Any more improvements? Sure. Imagine we only care about the error rate when the error rate is higher than, say, 20%. All we need to do is to add that condition to our query. Now we will only see the graph if the threshold is exceeded. Prometheus can be used anywhere in the cloud and on premises. You can monitor your laptop and have the alerts sent to your email or SMS. One of the dominant use cases of monitoring is site reliability. I believe you guys all familiar with the terms SLI, SLO, SLA. Google SRE book defines 4 golden signals as a measure of system health. So can we map them to the Prometheus world? Let's try that. Obviously, there are many ways to utilize the metrics, but I'd like to focus on 2 methods that have been very popular within Prometheus DevOps. The RAD method was described by Tom Wilkie, who is currently VP of Product at Grafana Lab. RAD stands for Rate, Error, Duration. Those indicators show how your service is user-friendly. Brandon Gregg, as Senior Performance Architect at Netflix, came up with the use method. Use stands for utilization saturation errors. Those indicators measure the overall health of your infrastructure. This is an example of RAD queries. They look similar to those we derived before, right? I don't want to burden you guys with the details, but rather to demonstrate the possibilities. So this is the queries, same queries on Prometheus dashboard. And this is an example of the use queries. We can monitor usage of CPU, memory, disk, network, etc. And here are those queries on Prometheus dashboard. PromQL is also used in alert management. You specify the queries, and Prometheus will periodically evaluate them. An alert will be triggered if the query returns any data points. And this is how the alert configuration looks in Prometheus server. Let's summarize. Prometheus is a great example of a successful open source project. Prometheus is very well engineered. It's easy to deploy and operate. It uses local storage and doesn't have external dependencies. It works in different environments, and it's very efficient. With Prometheus, you can pull metrics from a remote location and to use external storage to store time series. Prometheus has flexible data model, power query language, and alerting capabilities. On the flip side, Prometheus server cannot be scaled horizontally. You can deploy Prometheus in a federated way, but that has its limitations. And Prometheus does not provide native long-term storage. However, there are several commercial and open source projects in Prometheus ecosystem that bridge those gaps and offer scalable and durable monitoring solution. There are a few things to keep in mind when using Prometheus. Prometheus is free to use, but it's not free. You pay in compute power, network, and storage. Therefore, when you design your system, monitoring should be an integral part of your design. If you know your server level objectives, then you can devise proper metrics and avoid high cardinality. Use existing exporters when possible. People spend time and efforts, and usually they are well tested. And be mindful when with queries and alerts. That's all I have. I tried to fit maximum information into this allocated time without diving too deep into the details. But this is still only the tip of the Prometheus iceberg. If you are interested in learning more, I would first recommend visiting Prometheus website. It has rich and extensive documentation, one of the best I have ever seen. Also, there is plenty of useful information on the internet. So yeah, thank you. And if you have any questions, please.
Thank you very much. So we have a couple of questions. First of all, I would like to ask Willy. Willy, could you actually present the last slide of your presentation? I think we just cut it off a little bit too early.
Sure. Let me just.
Okay. In the meantime, there are a couple of questions, and please feel free. Anybody could actually answer from the presenters could answer those questions. But the question was came actually during Jay's presentation. How to attract best people, Jay?
That's actually a very good question. I think I have a quick story on this one though, regarding just continuing with the West Indies 20 years of domination. So there was a time in which, again, going back into the history, some people may or may not like it, is there was a time when, so just to copy Kerry Packer for World Series, they hosted something in South Africa under the apartheid government. And we are not getting into what the apartheid government did and everything. So similarly, Colin Croft went there. And then that was considered to be like a big no to get him back on the team, because he was getting a crazy, in that time, I think 70,000 or 80,000 pounds per year contract or whatnot. But he got, that's a huge amount of money back in that time. So keep in mind, all these people that have been come together, right? They're not there just for the number one criteria that I'm trying to make a point over here is money. They actually come to your team because they know that you're performing. They want to come and learn from you. If they see, normally when I go to any interview or anything of like a similar nature, or I see somebody for an interview, I would like to know how much interested is he to coming to it. And obviously this particular team was out there, it was very open what they're doing. So in that way, you need to showcase your strengths. I think that is the most important thing at this moment. Yeah. I hope I was able to answer the question.
Great, thank you very much. There is another question. This actually came up during Willy's presentation, and it was about wiki pages and videos. Who actually produces them?
The team. At the end of the day, the team produces the videos, but you will always have the engineer who loves creating videos and the engineer who does not want to ever be on video. So it's, I think naturally you will find that members of the team will help others keep the wiki up to date. The most challenging task is not to create a wiki, but to make sure that it is actually accurate and up to date. And only the team with collaboration with other teams can actually make sure that that is happening. Because if I create a wiki, it's up to date. Because that's the way I see the world. So we need to have the collaboration with other team members. So I don't know if I'm answering the question, but the team is responsible to create the wiki documentation and to maintain it. And the same with videos. But again, videos are really challenging because we try and create 3 to 5 minute videos because you cannot get an engineer to sit down and watch a 60-minute video. So we try and make it as short as possible, which again, I guess takes practice, and it's not everybody's favorite hobby. But at the end of the day, it's the team.
Great, thank you very much, Willy. There was another question, and again, anybody could answer this question, but it was actually during your presentation. Do you grant users bypass policy to override branch policies on master?
Yeah, I see Jay smiling again. These are discussions we're having regularly because if you ask any engineer, they need every permission on this planet to create repositories, to delete repositories, to bypass policies. Everybody needs them. What we agreed at WorkSafeBC as part of one of our guardrails is by default, we give the engineers just as much permission as they need to do their daily job. But we have a group, so every tribe consists of teams, or Andre, you call them pods. Every tribe actually has an Active Directory group that we call something, which defines the pod name and the tribe, followed by super users. So we create a group of engineers who get elevated privileges. It's kind of the team leads or the dev leads, but you have to earn the trust of deleting a repository or getting the permission to delete it. So no, we don't grant it to everybody. It's selectively to the super users. And yeah, those are the daily discussions we have as part of the collaboration is, do you really need these permissions? If yes, let's discuss it with security. Can we actually grant these permissions? And if yes, we just change the policy. So for us, it's very easy because now we're using group-based security. With that, we can change permissions and policies very quickly and easily.
I think the one thing to add to that is, just as the great Spider-Man saying comes, is with great power comes great responsibility. So if you're going to come and say, I need everything, you're on the hook, baby. Your fingerprints are on it. So you better be careful what you wish for it comes true. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both of you. There is another question, and again, anybody could answer this one. Could you tell us more about the ops part of DevOps? How to make ops as successful as development?
So I think probably from my perspective, working closely as a release lead between SREs and devs and QA and all across, I think, again, going back to the basic mindset of DevOps is a quick feedback loop, right? The moment you see something, you instantly do it. And as Willy just pointed out, he's more than happy to update the wiki, right? You actually see something in production. It may be, I'm not again quoting on step 1 or step 2, but the important thing is there are a few things that, and nobody's perfect, no team is perfect. We have to accept the fact that support teams are there to find mistakes and work with you at the same time with your end customers or whomsoever they are to help you. And the moment you realize it, that feedback loop should be tight enough so that it has been, again, got back into the circle and again making sure that it is not repeating. You can have the mistake. There's nothing wrong with it. There can be errors and there can be all sorts of weird issues, but don't repeat it. That's the only way you can help your ops, like getting Titan. And by empowering the ops, by giving them the right to say, like all those business rules and making sure they understand what to expect when it is in production. And having, I think Willy can speak on that, having automated release notes is one of the ways to do it. You actually tell them what to expect upfront instead of becoming a 2 a.m. shock and then giving them a 440-volt jolt by saying, I don't know what it is. Oh, you figure it out. No, that is not a conversation. To be mature enough in ops is going to drive dev, and dev is going to drive ops. So that's the both way it's linked. Yeah, that's it.
Great, thank you very much, Willy. Anything that you would like to add on that? What's your perspective?
Yeah, I think a theme that's coming out in today's meetup is that people is what we should be focusing on, and that it's about the team. And I actually had a discussion earlier today with a colleague who said, why are you always referring to engineers? Is it developers? Is it QA? Is it testers? And I said, in my opinion, that's probably brainwashed from my previous gig where we went through a DevOps transformation, and we literally got rid of developer roles, test roles, QA roles, you name it roles, and we called them engineers. And basically the message was, get together as a team, because DevOps is not about dev, it's not about ops, it's about working together, collaborating together, which is really where we're trying to empower all our users with the common engineering system. But at the end of the day, we have to work as one. So whether you are from ops or you're from dev, you are an engineer who is part of a team that is delivering a feature which we own as a team from the time we had the idea until we switch it off in production. So when the 2 a.m. call strikes, it's not just operations as in the old days that is actually called in to remediate the issue. It's the team that is called in, and the team consists of all the roles.
Okay, thank you very much, Willy. Dmitry, anything that you would like to add on that?
Yeah, so it's difficult to divide dev and ops, especially in today's world when most of the software runs on the cloud. But I agree, we need to, when I think of DevOps, and I'm considering the worst case scenario when at 2 a.m. Somebody is getting called. And I think having right tools and having right configuration is a key to address the issue in timely manner. So, for example, so our company, we provide the secure DevOps platform for other companies, but we also monitor our own infrastructure using same tools that we give to others. And we as developers, we defined, we built the system and we specified all the metrics. So after that, we built precise dashboards that in one glance can give you a perspective of the health of the entire system. And if something goes wrong, you as a developer on call, or I should use Will's term, engineer on call. You should be able to look at the dashboard and tell where is the problem, and then drill down to the root cause and potentially address the issue. But yeah, in my case, I mean, in my opinion, having the right set of tools and having the playbook and going through the scenarios is the key. And that also helps to onboard new members when they come and they try to perform the duties as a DevOps engineer. Having concise and precise and up-to-date information is paramount.
Great, thank you very much, Dmitry. And we've got a last question, and maybe I will start with you, Dmitry. If someone is a full stack developer, what should be their way for them to switch to the cloud? What advice would you give?
So full stack developer, meaning they develop the server side as well.
Yes.
Just move to the cloud.
Yes, simply like that.
Yes.
So taking some training, cloud training, AWS, Azure, that type of things.
No, that's that obviously would be one of the approaches. There are many companies that offer you cloud independent infrastructure, so you can deploy and then move from one cloud to another. But I don't really know the precise answer, because there are so many ways to do that.
Yes, absolutely, I agree. Willy, what type of advice would you give?
I think there's the most important, in my opinion, is for engineers to realize that the cloud is really just somebody else worrying about the server on your behalf. So yes, we have a lot of new services, we have a lot of new capabilities in the cloud, but at the end of the day, the principles of the 80s and the 90s still apply. So it's not something radically new. I think that's something very important to realize, so that you don't stand in front of the full cloud stack and you think, oh my God, how do I actually get through this? Well, start piecemealing through it. And my advice has always been Visual Studio Code, for example, is a free IDE, open sourced, good IDE to put on your machine. Azure, and I'm pretty sure AWS and all the other cloud providers provide trial subscriptions. So I would just install the bare minimum that you need and start exploring the cloud. Start exploring some of the services. And again, there's tons and tons of training material, demo material, and for example, Pluralsight is a good place to go to get up to speed on what is the cloud all about and what are some of the services. I think just start working with it and not be intimidated. That's, I think, is the most important thing, is do not be intimidated by the cloud.
And I think there's a great example of the culture that DevOps should have, the courage, right? Jay, could I ask you about your comment on this? What advice would you give?
I think for anything to start with, again, I'm going to reiterate the same thing as I've been talking for the whole evening, is, again, keep your feedback loop short. You can go on to like Azure Cloud, and they have tons of documentation, as like Willy just said, and start playing with it and just have a tight feedback loop. The only way for you to go to the cloud is actually you're going to make your feedback. And from Udemy to you name it, the sky is the limit when it comes to the knowledge base that is out there right now. But the only way for you, and probably what would help, is if you can find a friend or somebody who is working in a similar environment, who has actually done it. Maybe he can just keep on pointing. Skills-wise, I'm not actually big on, oh, you need to have the skills. If you are a full stack developer, you're already talented. I don't see any way for it. It's just about using a certain technology in a certain way is what you need to figure out. So maybe tag team and do a peer programming, a classic DevOps way again, right? You just kind of start with that, keep your stuff up, and just keep playing with it. I think you will get there. Yeah, it's not rocket science.
Excellent, thank you very much. So this was the last question for today. Many thanks to all our presenters, Jay, Willy, and Dmitry. This was really great, and various aspects of DevOps were actually covered today. So we recorded this session, and we will try to publish it. So hopefully you will be able to have some reference to those presentations. Now, again, we are going to have our next session in May. Sorry, yes, in May. It's coming, actually, right? So we are going to actually post the information and let you know when it's going to happen. Also, if you would like to be a speaker, please do not hesitate to reach out to Alison and myself. And we obviously always looking for some interesting topics. So please do not hesitate to send us some information about the topic and when you would like to actually talk. So many thanks again for participation, and hopefully we'll see you in May. Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.